all, great job, thank you. And I want to say I've never seen so many men squirm uncomfortably in public, so myself included, well done. I'm a writer and an actor also, and I'm just curious, since you're so involved in this movie and the way you're talking about it as kind of as a director and a writer, I'm curious how you related to the character of John when there's so much going on. There's so many narratives in play. There's so many metaphorical things happening. You know, how do you get into character? How do you find that character? How do you make that personal to you while all this other stuff is happening?
Well, you mean all this other stuff is happening like while we're shooting? You mean
right? Yeah, just the kind of day-to-day stuff that's happening as you're a director and a writer. And, you know, it's a lot. Yeah,
well, a lot of it was because of the writing process. You know, as an actor, normally you get a few months to prepare with some material before you go shoot. And this is a character I had been thinking about for years when we went to go shoot. So that was a huge advantage. It made it really easy. I knew him and I knew the scenes so well that I could kind of just turn it off and on without much effort and go back and forth and get into the scene and really get into it. And then, you know, once we said cut, felt like I could be objective and you know, make sure that it was going right. So I guess that's the answer.
And do you know those guys, or you just watched a lot of Jersey Shore? Because I know those guys being from Jersey. Like, how do you possibly know those guys?
Well, I lived in New York for almost 10 years. Yeah, so that's how. Yeah. I had never seen Jersey Shore when I wrote this, and
you're busy reading Joyce and Kate. What do you? Oh, yeah.
But look, this is an American character that's far precedes Jersey Shore. You know,
oh yeah, no,
whether you're talking about Saturday Night Fever, right, or you know any, you know, or lots of Martin Scorsese movies, or you know, Rocky.
You should name all the Italians you've ever heard
of. Leonardo da Vinci.
Then number 3.
How's it going? Love the movie, by the way.
Thank you.
So, you've been doing acting all your life, and now you're directing. When you were growing up, who was it in the industry that you looked up to most, and like what stuck out about these people that you looked up to that you've used throughout your career?
Well, I mean, a lot of people. I've been really fortunate to work with so many really wonderful, talented people. The year before we shot Don John, I worked with 3 directors, and they're 3 really good directors: Rian Johnson, who made Looper, and Christopher Nolan, who made Dark Knight Rises, and Steven Spielberg, who made Lincoln. And I certainly paid a lot of attention to what they were up to. And one thing I noticed that all 3 of them had in common was they all found a balance between having a thorough plan, but also being spontaneous. Because if you go too far in either direction, if you're too married to your plan, you can end up with something kind of lifeless. But if you're not, you know, attached enough to your plan, if you don't stick to your guns enough, then you can end up with something that's sort of flitting about and doesn't have a strong, unified voice. And you get those questions all day long. I watched both Ryan, you know, all 3 of them, Ryan and Chris and Steven, would answer those questions all day long, because that's oftentimes the questions that a director has to answer is, okay, this was the plan, but what do you think of this idea? And all 3 of those guys would answer that question differently every time. They didn't only answer on this side or on this side, and that's something I really tried to keep in the front of my mind, was not to just dismiss new ideas right off the bat, but not to be too quickly seduced by them because of their novelty. And finding that balance was a really, I think, is kind of right at the crux of what a director does, and something I try to keep in mind.
What's something that you really hadn't planned that happened during shooting that was in this movie?
Oh, good question.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Let's see. I'm trying to think of a good one. Let's see. Well, there's a little scene, a kind of a mini scene that wasn't in the script at all. Right before John and Barbara go to see the parents, the scene of them driving up, in the script, it just started with them coming in the door. And so that little scene of them driving up and getting out of the car and her being kind of nervous and stuff, that was just an idea that came up. I think it was the cinematographer's idea because he kind of liked the driveway and he was like, we could do this cool shot. And I was like, no, we're not doing something just for a cool shot. And then I was like, wait a minute, that actually might be kind of cool to see them before they walk in the door. Okay, well, let's try it. And I talked to Scarlett about it. I was like, no, this isn't in the script, so we'd have to just kind of make it up, but what do you think of this? And she liked the idea, and so we shot it, and I really liked that little moment.
And you shoot it thinking, I'll probably throw this away?
No, I really liked it. You know, when we were shooting, I was like, we're going to use this. This is great. There's pretty much nothing that we shot that's not in the movie.
Really?
Yeah.
So how was the longest cut you had of this?
This is the longest cut we had.
People are going to be pissed. You shouldn't tell people that.
No, that's true.
Don't tell like Judd Apatow that or something. It's your first movie and you didn't have like a 10-hour version of it?
No, well,
you're lucky it all worked. What if it hadn't?
That's a good point.
A 20-minute movie.
Well, there was I think the convention is you know, you estimate a minute a page ish, but I really wanted this dialogue to have a slightly heightened sort of comic pace to it, and so it ended up playing faster. And in fact, like there was a draft of the script that was, if I'm not mistaken, there was a draft of the script that was like 128 pages or so. And everyone was like, you have to cut this down. This is way too long. You're going to have a 2-hour plus movie. It's way too long for a comedy. And I was like, no, I think it's going to go faster than normal. I think this is going to be right. And you know, like my producer, Ram, there weren't like studio heads around or anything, but Ram was like, you really got to cut this down. I was like, okay. So I cut it down to like 110 pages. And then ended up putting a bunch of it back in. And then ended up writing 2 new scenes while we were in the middle of production, because we could tell that it was playing faster than...
It didn't feel like it had a 1940s, like, you know... It does, though, huh?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Well, yeah. A lot of the scenes do. Like, the family, there's almost no pauses. And the buddies, when they talk, there's almost no pauses. And especially the first half of the movie. A lot of the dialogue, there's, you know, and in movies nowadays, there's a lot of pauses, oftentimes.
Yeah, a lot more visual, like, meandering. Number, we up to 12? What number are we at? 4.
How are you Italian if your name is Stein?
No, I'm not Italian. I grew up with Italians. I'm from New Jersey.
But you're a Jew.
You don't say it like that. Well,
That's how I say it.
Sorry. Yeah, you can say it like that.
Yeah.
You can. Most of you probably. Yeah,
Stein,
Jew.
right?
Joel Stein. Yeah.
Okay.
My middle name's Mordecai. It's not, but Jose. Number 6.
I'm supposed to just say my name, but I'm going to say a shout out to your brother because every time anyone in the flow arts community hears that I'm the hit recorder, they rave about him. So I just wanted to relay that back.
Thanks very much.
You're welcome. Now, my name's Cora, and I actually asked you this question on set in the classroom on the first day of extra shooting.
Oh, hello again.
Hey.
If this light wasn't in my eyes, I'm sure I would recognize your face.
I don't, not a problem. I asked you what advice you would give someone who wanted to get into the industry or wanted to work, and you basically said, just make shit. And that actually turned into a collab. I don't know if you ever saw it. There's like
I haven't seen that one, no.
Belle Fable made a thing for me off of it. Anyway, it's like a whole thing. But,
Does everyone know what they're talking about?
sorry.
Can one of you two, either one, explain the website and how it works?
She's talking about Hit Record. So Hit Record's this company that I started, and
You did know. Why'd you make me do that?
Yeah. And it's we call it an open, collaborative production company, and we make all kinds of things, and people come together on our site and make make stuff together, and that's what she's talking about when she's saying she started a collab. That's short for collaboration.
I call it co.
It makes more sense when you're typing than when you're talking.
And it's awesome. Anyway, but I wanted to kind of revisit that question now that you're finished with the film. Like, what would you say to someone now that you've actually dealt with all of that? Like, you directed it, you wrote it, you acted in it, you saw it through production, you released it at Sundance, you've been screening it and pre-screening it and Q&Aing it, and yeah, like, what would you say now in response to that?
Yeah, all the more reason to not start with a feature film. I really think that having made many, many, many little projects that you can start and finish in a finite period of time and see how it goes, and not be afraid to make mistakes and things like that, invaluable. And if I hadn't have done that, I really don't think I would have been as well equipped to do this. So that would absolutely be my advice. Is while it's great to have your eye on an ambitious feature film project, rather than waiting for that to come together, you could also at the same time be making a 1-minute short film and tell a great story in 60 seconds. It's a really great challenge to try to tell a complete story in a short period of time, and then make one that's 2 minutes long, and then make one that's 3 minutes long, and then make like 5 more of them that are 3 minutes long, then try a 5-minute long one, then do a 10-minute long one, and just keep making the stuff. I think we all have a tendency to want it to be perfect, and I would definitely encourage anybody to not worry about that, to just worry about trying to have fun and be honest, and keep going, and make another one, keep making them. That's what I would say.
Awesome, thanks.
Number 7.
What's going on, man?
Hello.
I was wondering where the sister came from, because she's kind of like the silent bottom character of the movie. She's just like, she's always on her phone, but she's just like, these people are fucking idiots. And then she has her one moment of like prophetic speech where she blows the mind of everybody around her. I was wondering where that came from, if it was someone you knew, or if it was just something that worked really well comedically.
No, well, I like the idea of the sister sort of being a few years ahead of John. Like, in this story, you see him go from a guy who's very set in his ways and not really connecting to anything, to just beginning to take the first couple of steps in breaking out of that mold. And I didn't want you to see him become a whole new person. I just wanted to see he's starting. And I sort of saw the sister as someone who went through that maybe 3 or 4 or 5 years ago, and realized no one is listening to each other at this dinner table. I can talk, but none of these people are listening to a word I say. They expect me to be something that I am not. I'm going to still show up here because these are my parents and I love them. This is my brother and I love him. It's my family. Great. But there's no point in talking. No one is listening. And I didn't like the idea of a younger sister who was just totally checked out. Because, I don't know, I guess I'm more of an optimist than that. I like the idea that she's paying attention. She just realizes that there's no point in saying anything until she hears her brother say something unexpected. Oh, check it out. My brother is standing up to our dad and telling mom something she doesn't want to hear. This never happens. This has not happened. I don't think this has ever happened. Sure, I'll talk. I'll tell him what I think. And that was sort of the backstory, as it were, of that Bree and I. Bree is the actress who played the sister. Bree Larson. And that was sort of the story that she and I discussed.
Awesome, man. Thanks.
Thank you.